The road is now free and clear. No more obstacles, no more stops. We are now full throttle to WrestleMania 42. But let's review how the bigger matches on the show of shows were set up. My name is Daniel Strunk. Welcome back to QuickTime Reactions, and welcome to my review of Elimination Chamber 2026. Tonight was a pretty good show, even though I was really close to not seeing it because I was having trouble trying to find a spot where it was showing it. I eventually did, and when I got to the building, they were mostly through the women's entrance in the first match. But I didn't miss any of the action, so that's a positive. And speaking of which, we open up the show with the women's elimination chamber match. We start out with Tiffany Stratton and Kiana James, both having some pretty good back and forth. Although James is the more aggressor of the two, getting a little bit more of the offense in. Next is, I believe, Alexa Bliss, if I remember correctly. And she goes on a tear. In next is Asuka, who also goes on a tear as well. I believe right before the next entrant comes out, Bliss is about to go for Twisted Bliss onto Kiana James, but Asuka hits the mist onto Alexa, and shortly afterwards, Alexa is eliminated. So out next is Rhea Ripley, and of course she gets a monster pop and goes on a tear. And then the last person in is Raquelrodriguez, who absolutely cleans house in the matchup. Throws people left, right, and center into the cage wall. She power bombed Rhea onto the cage and then into the ring. Excuse me. She gave a power slam to James, basically through the pod. She hit the Tejana bomb onto Asuka, onto James to get the double pin and double elimination. Stratton and Rhea basically work together at this point to eliminate Raquel. Rhea hits a cannonball off one of the pods, which leads to Tiffany hitting the prettiest moonsault ever to eliminate Raquel. And then after a bit of back and forth, Rhea hits the Riptide to pin Tiffany, and Rhea Ripley will go on to face Jade Cargill at WrestleMania 42, which I think will be a pretty good match. Overall, the matchup was pretty good, and I had fun watching it, and was lucky enough to be able to get in there on time before the match had started. So, yay. Moving on to the women's Intercontinental title matchup between Becky Lynch and Ajlee. This was really good considering the fact that, this is AJ's first match back in 10 years. So, well, I should say first singles match in 10 years. And she definitely hung in there with Becky. Did some chaining early on. And then, of course, Becky got the majority of the offense, just lapping up the Chicago crowd for booing her. AJ did get a comeback in, but then, of course, the shenanigans started. Becky exposed a turnbuckle in one of the corners, and they go back and forth for a little bit more. But then after a pinfall, referee Jessica Carr notices the exposed buckle, tries to put the pad back on, and then she gets bumped not once but twice. So ref's out of commission. AJ locks in the Black Widow. Becky taps, but there's no official. They do a bit of brawling on the outside. Becky gets some separation and grabs a chair from under the ring. Hits a DDT, I want to say. It could have been a manhandle. No, I think it was a DDT onto the chair. And then hits a manhandle slam. Wakes up the ref. 1, 2, kick out by AJ, which leaves Becky stunned. She tries to run AJ's head into that exposed buckle, but ref Jess stops her. There's a bit more back and forth. Becky tries to go for a running splash in the corner with the exposed buckle, but it backfires. AJ locks in the Black Widow, and Becky taps. Ajlee is the new Women's Intercontinental Champion. And I await to see what her opponent or opponents are going to be for WrestleMania 42, because I think for me, like you guys remember from my predictions, that I picked Becky to win and then they'll run the match back at Mania. With this, AJ's third straight, victory over Becky, it's like the feud's pretty much done, I would think. So AJ's probably going to move on to somebody else for WrestleMania. At least that's my thought process on it. Moving on to the World Heavyweight title matchup between CM Punk and Finn Balor. Punk getting the Chicago Bulls-esque intro for his entrance, and then, of course, coming out to Cult of Personality. These guys had a pretty good matchup. It was pretty similar to the AJ Lee match, which was beforehand, where Finn got a good chunk of the offense, but they really actually went back and forth throughout the entirety of the matchup. But the one really big similarity is, the opponent hitting the finisher on the hometown person, and then they kick out. Balor hits the coup de grace on Punk. Punk kicked out. Punk hit a GTS, but Balor rolled to the outside. There's a bit of a brawl outside, which Finn Balor kind of puts the stamp on with the shotgun drop kick through the barricade. A bit more of a back and forth in the ring. There's one really cool spot where Balor goes for the coup de grace. Punk has his foot up and he stops the coup de grace, rolls through, and locks in a sharpshooter. I thought that was really, really cool. I've never seen that counter into the sharpshooter, so I thought that was really cool by Punk. But in the end, though, Punk is able to hit a second GTS and seal the win. He is still World Heavyweight Champion, and he will still be going on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 42. And then afterwards, him and Finn Balor had a nice bit of respect afterwards, and I'm sensing a babyface turn for Mr. Finn Balor in the near future. So, yeah, pretty good match overall, and I think the right guy won. But before we get on to the main event match, there is, of course, the topic of the crate. What is inside the crate? Well, they wheel the crate to the entranceway. Pierce and Aldis have crowbars. They open up the crate to see that there is a coffin inside. They both leave. They don't want to deal with that. The coffin opens up. Then some music plays with the punctuation of, "You are cursed." And, of course, to those who know who that is, know who it is. It is the very nice and very evil Danhausen. Danhausen has made his way to WWE. He had the whole troop of ladies with his face paint. He's wearing the cape. He's got the really poof pyro at random points. He gives Michael Cole a jar of teeth. And it's just so weird to see Danhausen in WWE. And I say this because WWE has gone into a real like sports mode with their broadcasting. They're on ESPN. It's more sports based. You know, they treat it with legitimacy. And then there's this dude with, you know, a whole bunch of ladies with, you know, his face paint on their face, and he curses people. That's his shtick. So I don't know. I just find that absolutely hysterical. But I'm very happy to see Danhausen in WWE. I had the honor and privilege of meeting him last year during Royal Rumble weekend, and he's an awesome dude, and I'm very excited to see what he does in WWE. And now we are on to the main event, the men's Elimination Chamber match. Cody Rhodes and Jevonevans start us off. And they have some pretty good back and forth between the both of them. In next is Mr. Trickwilliams, who is definitely like aping some of Booker's mannerisms. Like he did the look at the hand. He did like the Harlem axe kick. Well, it's not an axe kick. It's the, I don't want to call it a leg lariat either, but the axe kick that Booker T used to do. In next was Logan Paul. He had a bit of a run going on. And then next in was Mr. LA Knight. He had a bit of a run. And then finally, Randy Orton, who entered in his 10th chamber match. And he only needed the last 4 more minutes before he broke Cena's longevity record inside of the chamber, which I thought was very interesting. So all 6 guys are in the chamber, and you know they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The first person to be eliminated is Mr. Jevonevans. He gets hit with a pulverizer by Logan Paul, which sends him packing. An unfortunate situation for Mr. L.A. Knight. He tries to go for his elbow drop that he does, where he leaps from the second to the top and then does the elbow drop. But his foot slipped and he was not able to get the elbow drop off. And well, he was able to get the elbow drop off, but just on his feet. So that was a bit of a shame. But afterwards, after that recovery, Logan Paul is able to eliminate LA Knight, and then a little bit after that, he's able to eliminate Trickwilliams. And then more shenanigans happen. As Trick is being escorted out of the chamber, another guy in a hoodie shows up, and security, you know, basically glom him. They stop him from getting inside the chamber, and get him out. It's just another random dude, and then they escort him out. As the refs are still helping Trick get out of the chamber, another masked man shows up, enters, hits a super kick and a stomp, and then Paul is eliminated. And this guy reveals himself to be Seth Rollins. Rollins has cost his former teammates in the division a chance to go in main event WrestleMania. So now his job is done, and we are now down to Cody and Orton. However, the chamber door is still open, so Drew, sensing the opportunity to try and screw Cody over one more time, he interjects himself, hits Cody with the belt, tries to go for a Claymore, but that doesn't work. There's a bit of a back and forth between Drew and Cody before Drew eats an RKO and a Crossroads for his trouble, but Orton, because he is the Viper and the Apex Predator, he hits an RKO on Cody and gets the pin Randy Orton wins the Elimination Chamber and will go on to face Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Now, do I think that this is going to be the matchup at WrestleMania 42? No. I think that it will most likely turn into a fatal four-way between Drew, Orton, Rhodes, and Fatu. I think that's probably the direction that they're going to be going in. But yeah, I was not expecting Orton to win this chamber match. I was fully expecting Rhodes, but definitely makes the road to WrestleMania very, very interesting, because if Cody's not going to be challenging for the championship, what's he going to be doing at WrestleMania? Is he going to be fighting Fatu? Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? We'll have to wait and see. But there you go. That is my review slash highlights of what happened at Elimination Chamber 2026. I thought the show was pretty good. There was some stuff in here that I was very surprised at, like AJ winning the women's IC title and Orton winning the men's chamber match. I was very surprised by that. My predictions on the night, I was 2-2 in my matches, 3-2 or 2-3 if you want to include the box prediction that I had. So I took a loss on tonight's show. If you do include what was in the crate, but if you don't, then I drew on the show. So there you have it. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it for me on this one, guys. Be safe out there. And the next wrestling pay-per-view will be just in a few weeks' time. It'll be AEW Revolution. It'll be for the other side of the coin. But until then, guys, be safe out there, and I'll catch you guys next time.